A little bit of the Ramones for you this morning. I am conscious that makes me look not like a Ramones fan. And as far as it's permissible to be a Ramones fan, my favourite song isn't Hey Ho, Let's Go, let's put it that way. It is Pet Sematary. Under the sing of a sacred place, and in a dream I can't escape. This product contains nicotine, which is a highly addictive substance. Correct, it is. I figured out a way to stop. I celebrate my 35th birthday yesterday. That's not me. That man there is not me. But what if he becomes me because I get really old and... But it is. It's my birthday tomorrow. And with it being my 36th year on this planet, I will be 35. With it being my 36th year, I'm conscious that in numerology, that 36, 333, is a master number of some sort. I don't get fully into it. I mean, the thing with me is I go deep on things until I feel like I've got what I need off it, and then I just move on. It's like with the Bible now. I don't sit and read the Bible now, but I will open it when I'm in times of need. And I think that thing of like you having your own relationship with God and your own relationship with the Bible, I think that's really cool. And the Bible, along with like whatever was inside me to keep me going, the Bible was like a big deal for me. Helped me a lot. Like a lot. I don't think I'd be here without the Bible. So I owe it a lot. And I am conscious that karma's not a joke. And that karma, the fear of God, with bad karma coming back to you, that's what I think the fear of God is. That can be, you ain't getting away from it. It's undefeated. It's more undefeated than Facebook comments. Which, by the way, I haven't done for a long time. In a very strange tangent off going. This thing is something that I need to stop as well. So when I went sober in 5 years in August, and in the time around that, I also stopped loads of other stuff. I went like completely clean. So I did no meat for a year, did no Diet Cokes, I did no caffeine, no. Oh, there's a cat just jumped through a tree there. That's not something you see every day. Like a little leopard. Lee leopards. Something's telling me that the Lee leopards are going to be involved somehow. So I am, as I say, believe it or not, on this channel. Listen to me calling it the channel. It's me sitting in my car doing videos, smoking cigarettes, smoking B&H Silver. But I am conscious that oversharing and people can put bad energies on it and stuff. But I do believe that I was put through the ringer, so to speak, for the post-traumatic growth that will then lead me to being able to, please God, inspire other people. Smoking actually would be a really interesting one because I know how difficult it is to stop, and I think I figured out a way to. Well, I did figure out a system by which to stop. He says, ironically, lighting one up. But yeah, a lot of should I put this on a little cooler? A lot of I am conscious that post-traumatic growth is very much a factor of anytime you've ever been through shit. Does it make my ears stick out this? It feels like it does. Maybe it's just me, I can just feel it. Anyway, yeah, post-traumatic growth is a thing that happens when you go through shit and you get through it and you're stronger at the end of it. I'll go back to what I was saying about my ambitions and the Lee Leopards, and I'm in rugby league country, and the thing is with me, I've had problem after problem with my body, challenge after challenge with my body, and initially I let it get me. So show you all these scars on my legs. You see that there? I've got that on both sides, on both legs, because I managed to inherit or develop compartment syndrome, which is basically when you run, everything gets hot and swells up, and it didn't have any room to swell up into. So it would cause me cramps, which would stop me from being able to run, basically. So I had anterior and posterior compartment syndrome, fascia release. They released my fascia, and it sort of worked. The first one worked a bit, so I was able to play a little bit of football, but like gripping with your feet, like snowboarding, was just written off. And that was really, I've never thought about that, but letting go of snowboarding and not being able to do it was like a thing. But I realised that so I had a conversation with a woman in B&M, I think it was, Home Bargains, or something, the other day, and she was saying that she struggles with sciatica, and I was saying, well, did you do any stretching? Because I've managed to figure out different ways of, I struggled with after the car crash, and I managed to stretch it out, basically, which is what I learned from doing my legs. I had the surgery, but then in hindsight I realised that stretching as well, and moving around parts of your body, releasing certain tension areas, was how you don't give up, basically. Which is a gift and a curse, I suppose, because when you go to a new club, like I went to the new boxing club, and I can't join in with a warm-up properly, I can't skip, I can't, and to any new group of people, especially because I'm fucking autistic and I'm just covered in tattoos, and I often feel very misunderstood. The thing is with me is what you see is literally what you get, and that's because of how my brain works. I don't do anything to appear to do something. I do it because I like it, or because I'm trying to be authentically me, which is another thing that I've had to go through a whole thing of. Because I've been around people before that want to change you and want to make you what they want you to be, and then because I didn't have any tools, I would go to that and I'd be like, okay, well, I'll be like this. How the fuck did I get onto that? I need a podcast host, don't I? Anyway, I speak to this woman in B&M, and she'd kind of given up, and I had the sense of like, she was just saying, I can't do the stretches, I can't. And you could tell she was not in a particularly good place about it. And that's the sense of, with me, it's always, now anyway, it wasn't before, but now it's like, I will do my very best to find a solution. And it does present some problems because I just can't join in as normal. But when did I ever? Shouldn't do this. Because that's littering. What's that thing? I've been thinking about making a sign. I saw one, don't be a twit, drop your latter, which I thought was quite cool. Don't be a twat, don't drop your litter. But yeah, littering, I pick up litter. I'm doing it more in Spain because there's more bins, but we were in a city at that time, in Tarragona. Like if you walk in and you can see a bin and you can see like a bottle or a sweets packet on the floor, I just pick it up and put it in the bin. I'm walking past the bin anyway. So, yeah, it's just about finding a way and not taking no for an answer, but also doing that from a place of compassion of yourself. Like, you know, life can be very challenging, and I don't know what it was. I think I had so much regret from not playing rugby as a kid, because I know what I always knew that I can catch a ball and run like foot. I've caught a ball, and I don't want to sound like this big-headed, but I'm just sharing to illustrate where my regret came from. I've caught the ball from kick-off and then scored, but because I was never really into rugby as like a fan, I like it. I do like it. I think it's cool. Because I was never into it as a fan, I never sort of grasped the nature of something like that. I'd never seen anyone else catch a ball from kick-off and score. But because I had so low self-worth, I remember I scored. I did that, and because I scored it, I then had to take the drop goal thingy or whatever, and I was like, I can't do this. I'm gonna fuck it up. And then I managed to shank it over the bar, and I hit it and turned around. And I was like, I've missed. This is embarrassing, and it managed to go over. I didn't even realise, and then because of that, I was disappointed. Rather than being able to revel in my achievement. But I suppose at that time it would have been from a place of almost insecurity and weakness, and it would have presented as big-headedness. And, you know, doing something like that for me as a kid, it would have been used as a tool to help my self-worth, which then would have been done in a more big-headed sort of way. But I realised my big-headedness, you know, going into sort of late teenage years and early 20s, especially with like getting attention off girls, was a mask for, it was something that made me feel good, which I never had before, ever, about anything. Because rugby was never my passion, it was always football. And I was in the wrong position for football. But back in the day when I was playing, in like the early 2000s, the right backs, for example, I should have been a fullback. Right backs were the bad ones on the team. Left back on the bench, and he's got a nice smile. Of an old lady, not old, but walking age, Jack Russell. And so because I was in a team that wasn't very good, I was always put up front because I would score, especially in my second high school, because there's only like 30 people in our year, and so they put me up front, and I ended up, I had a trial at Tranmere. I wasn't but then my legs fucked me up in the trial. I don't know whether I was good enough or not. I skinned Aaron Cresswell. For anyone that knows football, he's a left back that played for England and West Ham. I think he still does play. And yeah, I skinned him, and then this is another example. I skinned Aaron Cresswell, obviously not knowing at the time who he was, or sort of knowing who he was. Obviously not going on to play for England or whatever. And because my cross got caught by the keeper, I then beat myself up about that rather than skinning the best player that they had at the time. And going on, you know, after that, to really realising the significance of how good he actually was and is. Only in hindsight, I suppose, I was able to grasp that that was a bit of a claim to fame and that was an achievement. But the coaches didn't take to me, and my legs just, I couldn't join in. My legs were fucked. I remember my dad bought me the Vapor boots. And Mum was like, "Don't get him new boots." And I was like, "No, it's a confidence thing." And yeah, I had the new Nike Vapors on, and I was thinking, I've got an opportunity here to fulfill a life dream. Like, it was my dream at that age to be a footballer. I never really practiced enough as a youngster, but in later teenage years I started to. And that's another huge thing, by the way, that everyone young needs to know and hold on to and listen to. The best football players, the best people at sports, the best technically, they're the ones that practice the most. Yes, you will have athletic gifts, or you have hand-eye coordination more than some people, and some people will benefit from that. And thank God I was able to, thank God I was allowed the opportunity to have an athletic prowess that's still that opens doors for the things that hopefully I'm going to go in to achieve, and that will enable other people to think, if he can do that, then what can I do? But it's just the ones that are the best are the ones that practice the most as younger. It's like that's that 10,000 hours thing. And the key to that is consistency. And I realised that doing the rugby thing, it was like, okay, you can do 100% effort for 50% of the time, or you can do 50% effort for 100% of the time. And the latter is the way that you achieve greatness, frankly. But I didn't mean that saying that. I'm not trying to say that I'm great. That's not exactly what I'm trying to say. What I'm trying to say is maximal effort, you burn out. But if you consistently, every single day, do a bit, it's not overwhelming. Your body will be in better condition. You will slowly build up resilience. You'll slowly build up the temperance of your body. You'll slowly build up to a point where you become proficient. And then you're in a position to be much better than you were before, and better than other people around you. One thing a friend of mine did say to me long after we left college was, I was like, Sportsman of the Year, and I was like, what are you on about? Because I played in the rugby team in the first year and then played in the football team in the second year. But again, I didn't even notice that was a thing. I didn't notice that was about, I was with my ex, so it would have been one of them. It would have been about 2023, 2022, so I would have been 22 at the time. So we probably left college for about 3 or 4 years. It was after uni, or during uni, at the end of uni. So I'd have been 22, and I saw him at a party. I hadn't seen him for ages. Nice lad, Sean Terron. Hope you're well. And he said to me, that Sportsman of the Year, and I was like, it didn't even resonate with me that other people weren't doing the things that I was doing, and the things that I was doing were, in a sense, unprecedented. And even saying that feels weird, because I've always had such bad self-worth, such challenging self-worth issues, such deep, intrinsically tied trauma bonds, and it's complicated. And only going to therapy and working out did I start to realise. But there were a few things in life where, after the fact, like the whole reason why I started the journey to wanting to become the oldest person to turn professional at rugby was I was at my friend's party. And I really embarrassed myself that night as well. Look, you can only do the best with the tools that you've got at the time, and beating yourself up is no good as long as you learn and grow from it, and don't make the same mistakes, and go back and apologise. But I was at my friend's mum's 50th, I think it was, and it was around that time that I was getting a lot of my self-worth issues helped, probably aided by attention off girls, which made me feel good about myself. And I just got hammered and was just flirting with everyone, including like my mate's sister. And I actually did then go on to have sex with someone, a cousin of some sort. I was off the rails, man. I was really struggling. Anyway, during that party, before I got so hammered that I couldn't remember what I was doing, by way of escape, by the way, I had a conversation with his dad, Craig. I'm gonna have another cigarette. I had a conversation with his dad, Craig Mackay, who's a very good man. It's a very nice family, that the Mackay family. Joe Mackay, very, very nice family. I used to try and pick his little brother up by the head. That's so mean. Such a terror. I did that to a kid at school as well called Chris. I had to pick him up by the head. I wasn't even strong at that point. That's such bizarre, weird behaviour. But if someone tried to pick me up the head, I wouldn't be pleased. It was always that level of terroring people. It was never like aggressive or mean. It was just like full on terror, just going around doing it to everyone. But then also being nice. Anyway, so I had a very drunk conversation with Craig Mackay. Well, before I was absolutely hammered, and in that conversation, Craig told me that I was the most naturally gifted rugby player that he'd ever seen, and it blew my mind. And it's kind of weird that I'm smoking cigarettes, knowing that I have an opportunity. But it's my birthday tomorrow and my 36th year, so I'm going to do my very best to not beat myself up, come off the cigarettes, and then, you know, manage my stress through. Anyway, with a nicotine replacement for now. So he told me, he said, you're the most naturally gifted rugby player he's ever seen, and it was another one of those moments, like I said, my mate Sean said, and it was just like, what? What did you just say? And when he said that, it just changed something in me, and the regret, because at that time, I was fully on the mindset that unless you get picked up when you're young, when you're a teenager or whatever, unless you get picked up into academy, then that's it, you're done. There's no chance. That's not the case. But because there was so much regret about getting kicked out of school, even if I was thrown under the bus, like, I always beat myself up. Someone told me that I'd let myself down after that, and it went in, and that's where my life spiraled. But going back to what I was saying, so Craig said, yeah, he said, you're the most naturally gifted rugby player I've ever seen, and I was just like, no one has ever shared feedback with me ever like that. And it planted a seed, and I was like, I must have been 22 at the time, 21, 22, yeah, around then. And I was still drinking a lot, and I remember crying to myself one night, like months after, crying, smashing a boxing bag at mum and dad's house, like crying to myself, saying I could have been so good. And I beat myself up so much, and then when I hit 30, my 20s just spiraled. I was doing coke and getting bladdered all the time. I was working in business development, and I just had a company card, and I was just going out getting hammered. And it was to be fair, it did actually build my relationships with the market, but so when I hit 30, and it was 31 actually. 30, I got hammered, and I was really overweight. And it was 31 that was the one for me. I remember my 31st birthday with an ex of mine. We were going to some thing that she bought me, a 4x4 day, which I thought was really cool. But anyway, and I was just crying in the car that I can't go. And there was so much regret. And from those, and sort of at that moment, I was like, something has got to change. And it didn't start straight away. I carried on getting hammered until sort of the August time, like hammered. And I went to visit my best friend in Germany, and got so drunk. You know, like the lads' holiday vibes, where it's like you struggle to drink the next day and you just push through it. And it was after another holiday that I'd been on, and I got to my parents. I flew from Germany to Spain when my parents will have a place, and I was shaking on the plane. I was like almost like hallucinating. I don't know if you ever had that when you get really, really hammered on really cheap vodka. Not this was another time, but you like almost hallucinate. You're not with it. It's heavy shit. People get sleep paralysis, don't they, after holidays abroad, stuff like that. Anyway, and I got to the point. I was 31. I was like, I'm overweight now, but I was like pushing 17 stone. That's 16.8, I think, was the highest that I got. And I was like, no more. And I went into a David Goggins rabbit hole. I hate that phrase, rabbit hole, but I went into a David Goggins rabbit hole and was just taking in all of this motivational shit, and I just got enthralled in it. Around that time I'd stopped working. My mental health was not good. I was in a job that I felt trapped. I felt unhappy. I felt the doctors the thing with the doctors of mental health, they'll just throw you on all sorts. And look, there is a place for getting you over a hill with regards to dealing with stuff. They call it depression and a chemical imbalance, or anxiety, or whatever it is. There's loads of different terms that they use, and they throw them around like they know what they're talking about, these GPs, and they're not experts. They're not experts in that field. And even when you go and see an expert in that field, they're back there, and then there's a situation of bias, and then you're pigeonholed. And I was on all different sorts of antidepressants and anti-anxiety, anti-this and anti-that, and the only thing that cured it, because they'll just pile them on top of them. So they'll say, all right, well, I'm putting on loads of weight on this pill that I'm on. All right, we'll give you another pill to deal with the feelings of that. And it's like, all right, well, now I'm on 2 pills. And then it's like, oh, well, it didn't actually go much further than 2, I don't think. But at the same time, like, 2's a lot, especially when you're coming from a place of misunderstanding. And then, because I went into this David Goggins rabbit hole, and I was just like I just became all about wellness. It was wellness, it was betterment, it was psychology. And then I went into psychology, and then I started therapy. And then when I was doing therapy, I found a PhD. I was like, I'm going to find the most highly qualified person I can in the area, and I'm going to just go into this full throttle. I'm mad at myself. I'm upset with myself. I'm not in a place that I'm happy with, and I'm going to do something about it. And fucking hell, like fully deep into like. I just became enthralled with understanding my brains, understanding my drivers, understanding the human condition, understanding the child psychology, understanding trauma, understanding growth, understanding grief, understanding, and I really, really went balls to the wall, because I wasn't working at the time. At that time, I wasn't working, and I was doing property, so it was kind of like I was flexible as my own boss, and yeah. I went really deep into it, and again I've forgotten how to get onto this, but the only thing that cured it wasn't popping a pill that saved me. It was God, but then God and then myself. I'm not saying I'm God, but actually we all are. There's a possibility that we all are, and this universe is God, and that's what we're all in anyway. So my actions aren't actually my actions. It's God through me, and that's the same for everyone. And I really went balls to the wall, psychology, and that's when I got my chance with Exeter University and the Chiefs, because I applied for the scholarship, and I didn't get the scholarship. I was going to go and do a master's in psychology and retrain, because I wanted to help other people and be a therapist and stuff. And then that's when I started doing the life coaching. And I realised that it wasn't the pills that sort you out, and I can almost guarantee that, excuse me, the anyone that's on an antidepressant, anyone that's struggling, I can almost guarantee that either they won't be sleeping right, they won't have a sleep routine, they won't have a diet routine, they won't have a wellness routine, they won't be meditating, they won't be doing yoga, they won't be looking after themselves, they're probably smoking weed, they're probably drinking alcohol, they're probably engaging in activities that brings down your energy, that then lends itself to the ball rolling of not being, I shouldn't really crack this, but I feel anxious because people keep walking past and looking at me. That's a weird thing that I'm getting used to as well. And yeah, I realised that the only person, no one's coming to save you. You got to do it yourself, and that's when you got to put your faith in God. Have faith and trust the process. And that's when I went down the rugby rabbit hole, and I was just doing it 24/7. I was doing hot and cold therapies, I was doing meditation, I was doing yoga, I was doing all the supplements, the natural ones, holistic ones that everyone should be taking, by the way. There's a huge stigma, and even the name antidepressant creates the stigma, and I'm like, is that purposeful? Because tell me someone on the planet that wouldn't benefit from being in a slightly better mood, full stop. And that's something that holistic remedies can get you without being hooked into the big pharma cycle of making money off people's cures. They make customers, not cures. Now there's a place for modern science, but it doesn't have all the answers. And again, without sounding big-headed, I found myself being like, I found the answers to, there's a blueprint that can be followed, that I've been able to be given, that can pick someone out of a hole. And like I didn't even realize the shit that I was going through, obviously with my abuse being stored in the back of my head, repressed memory. It was just like, and that's when I stopped. Now, so I was completely clean, completely sober. I was doing no meat, I was doing nothing. And that's sort of what got me through that, and the Bible and God and my partner. It was a big hero of mine, because I say I had to sort of flee the situation that I was in. I went to travel Spain, and is this an overshare? Is there something I want to share on here? There's a very, very romantic story about how we met, and I might save this one for another time, just so I can be clear that it's suitable to share on here. And yeah, like, she saved my life. She was there for me. She allowed me to be myself. She encouraged me to be myself. I grew my hair out. I was like a 90s wrestler with my long hair, and she really gave me the power to express myself genuinely without feeling like there was pressure of expectation and pressure of other people's opinions. And yeah, going off to Spain for that, however long it was, and I ended up, when I moved over there properly, I turned my phone off. I got a new phone, I got a Spanish phone, and I was just cut off from the world. And I was just like, you know what, I'm just gonna following my heart. Sounds crass, but like, I'm a little bit emotional. But then, like, around that time, so I found out about my abuse, and then I still didn't break my cigarette thing. I still stayed completely teetotal. I smoked a little bit of CBD flower, but like a very small amount. Because that's the thing with cannabis. It's the psychoactive nature of it. We live in this society thing of this is what happens and it causes this and this and this. And actually, I think there's a complete misunderstanding of what that actually is. And it's all very spiritual, because what's that Roots Maneuver lyric? It depends on the demons that you stuck with. So if you're smoking cannabis from a young age, which shouldn't be allowed or shouldn't be encouraged, probably shouldn't be allowed to the point of like who draws the line, but it opens your mind spiritually, which is why Bob Marley used to refer to it as meditation. It's a meditation within consciousness of sorts. A bit deep, but yeah, man, I was completely clean. Even after my abuse, I stayed completely clean. And again, tangent gone off on, but that's when I doubled down on my faith, because no one is, when you fall properly, no one is coming to save you. And even if there are people there that can save you and sort of mollycoddle in a certain sense, but without the, you know, the negative association of mollycoddle, you don't actually want it. You don't actually want someone to come and save you, because it will create some sort of emotional bond reliance thing. And I've seen that with friends of mine who have had traumatic experiences, and then they've had a very caring and compassionate immediate support group, and they then fall into the trap of thinking that it's almost like the victim mindset. I try to think of myself as a survivor rather than a victim. Flipping heck. I have to air the car out after this. It's gonna stink. God, I've not sat in a car and smoked cigarettes for years. I used to do this all the time. My very first Vauxhall Corsa had a burn stain. Admittedly, I think that was from hash rather than cigarette, but had burn marks all up here as well. God, that takes me back. But yeah, man, I don't know necessarily if the system that we found ourselves, especially in the West, enslaved in, frankly, but to be a more sort of understandable route of communication, just like the one where we live, the system that we're in. I don't know how conducive it is to betterment and harmony and opportunity. I've never lived in the States. They call it the land of opportunity, don't they? I'd love to get over there and be able to benefit from that land of opportunity thing, but you know, please God, I will. But I just feel like the system isn't set up for us to achieve. And when I say us, I mean anyone that's not in the elite class. And having been sort of a part of that in some sense in my younger days, you know, I've referred to this a few times, that I played football at Eton College and lived on a lilo in Ibiza, San Antonio, not even a nice bit. And it's given me sort of a rounding of understanding that, I don't know, maybe is fairly unique. And maybe that's just from a felt sense. Maybe you don't actually need to have that grounding that I've had to sort of do the unique sort of felt sense and felt experience of it. But you know, it you know, the phrase of money goes to money. I mean, I think there's probably a possibility that it might have been engineered that way. And I don't think you can force people to do it like communism. I don't know enough about politics, so forgive my ignorance, but I don't think you can force people to do it like in communism, but I think that it has to be. I think business leaders are way more important, especially community business leaders are way, way more important. And if there was a sense of philanthropic for the betterment of the community out of a sense of wanting to do it, that would be the way forward for. It's like the Premier League footballers, for example. If you put on a 1% people tax, let's call it, alright, then it would eventually they would ask for 1% more on the deals. So if you had the Premier League footballers that paid 1% of their earnings before tax, because you probably could get a loophole there, of some sort of tax loophole, 1% of their earnings to go into a community project to help the communities that support them, because football teams are nothing without the fans. Well, let's not get into football finance right now. Then that money alone would be an extortionate amount that would be able to, benefit those communities. And maybe it's something that would have to be done. But this is the thing: it has to be done choicefully. If it's not done choicefully, then they'll just ask for more on top, and then it just pushes the wages up, and the cycle just continues rather than breaking it. And I think that's how you break the cycle. It has to come choicefully. People have to want to do it. So if there was a community of footballers that decided that the 1% they wanted to do it, or philanthropic community leaders wanted to give 1% of their earnings to community causes, it's the wanting to do it. That's why I think communism doesn't work, because you make them do it. That's why tax the rich doesn't work, because it creates friction, and also it just exacerbates the cycle. Because that 1% will get put on somewhere else, which then just keeps the cycle of the void going. But if it was done choicefully, and philanthropic business leaders wanted to better their communities and wanted to raise that bottom rung of the bar, that bottom rung of the ladder, they wanted to lift it, then I kind of think that's probably how progress would be made. It has to be choiceful from the people, and we don't live in a society that's very conducive to that, because we live in the Instagram Lamborghini will make you happy. But I know quite a lot of well-off people, and I wouldn't say that necessarily any of them are happy. Because from the outside, money solves problems, but it just creates the same amount of problems that it solves. You just have different problems. But they can be severe as well. People only wanting to be around you because of material stuff, and then that is disingenuous. And then if you don't have good boundaries, for example, like this numpty used to not have, you get embroiled in situations that aren't conducive to anything really. And you get hurt. But again, I don't want to cry victim. Everything happens for a reason type vibe. I keep thinking I see something out the back of my nose, but I think it's a bird poo on my car in the wind. Yeah. So I didn't realise that I was doing stuff that wasn't unprecedented. Makes it sound like I'm blowing my own trumpet, but in a sense, if someone's describing you as the most gifted natural rugby player, or the top sportsman kind of vibe, or catching a ball from kick-off and scoring, I didn't ever see those things as unprecedented in any way. So hopefully now I'm in a position where God will decide that maybe the blueprint that I've figured out for betterment, maybe some of these ideas of how to build harmony, maybe the messages that I believe could be really useful, I'll have an opportunity to be able to share them, but be listened to, because we live in a society where unless you've got a platform, unless you're a false idol, there's no one going to listen. It doesn't matter how you say or what. It doesn't matter what you say or how you say it. No one's going to listen. They're going to pay any attention. Which is kind of nice for me because I'm able to share like this. I think if I did feel like I had eyes on me, then perhaps building the confidence to have people walk past the scene, like a couple of months ago, I wouldn't have been comfortable with that. And even like people that I know from my past, the feeling of judgment or whatever held me back a lot. And there's that great poem from Coach Carter, that kid that stands up, and he says, "What's your deepest fear? Your deepest fear is not that we are inadequate. Our deepest fear is we are powerful beyond measure. It's not our light. It's not our darkness. It's the light that frightens us. But dulling down our own light. What is it? Dulling down our own light. It basically is saying that by you playing small, it doesn't benefit anyone else. And while it takes a bit of a set to be genuinely yourself in a world where everyone wears the same clothes, it's hard to be the one that does the thing that comes from here, especially if it means that you're covered in tattoos and people make snap judgments, and that isn't always conducive to betterment or like but I've tried to fit in. I've tried to fit in. I've tried to do the thing. I've tried to wear the matching Nike set that sometimes looks really cool, don't get me wrong, but like the Montrex thing's a big one at the moment, isn't it? All lads are just wearing the same thing. But if you look at all girls of a certain age wear the same thing. And stepping out of that and it's taken me a long time just to be like, the difficulty that I have, especially from the autistic side, the difficulty that I have in the feeling that I have of fitting in and not feeling genuine and not feeling myself and being genuine, is harder to manage and harder to feel and harder to do than actually just letting my own true self out, in effect. And but then dealing with all the stuff that comes with that, like creating tensions in new groups, is a really big thing. That's a really, really big thing. And then I guess it just feeds into the thing where everyone just wants to be part of a group and loved, and I think everyone really deep down wants to love and love back, but we just get sort of turned away from that. And maybe that's because I never really felt that before, but I think that's what they always say on that first dates program, isn't it? That's such a good program. I've not watched it for ages. I don't really watch TV anymore because I can't not see the agendas with it. That's why I can't even bring myself to watch that adolescence thing. Because from what I've heard, people talking about it, it's just. And oh goodness, have you seen the thing that the EU are doing? So the UK is effectively now back in the EU, isn't it? With this EU summit, I think, whatever it was called, with two-tier Kia. I don't even really know what two-tier Kia means, but with Keir Starmer. So we're effectively back in the EU, and the EU now is pushing a directive where obviously social media and the independent media is creating a counter movement, which thank God, but they're trying to clamp down on it, and that's not happening in the States anymore, thank God. But they're really trying it on over here, like pedal to the metal, trying to stop independent media and stop people having a voice. It feels like the Hunger Games, man, that we're in. We don't kill each other with guns and weapons, we just do it mentally. Yeah, they're pushing a directive where they're going to stop independent media, or they're trying to put a stop to independent media, and they're framing it in it's not safe, and it's safe for the people to not have these other narratives aside from the one that the one that the system has decided is the right one. I've never read 1984, but it freaked me out a bit, to be honest. I read the first few pages, I was like, nah, I shouldn't finish that. It's too much caffeine. I can already feel it. Chest is getting a bit tighter, and it's completely hypocritical and ironic because I'm doing a video about wellness. Well, I'll say that though, I have got these, that's a step in the right direction, and also there is an element of with smoking of late. I've picked it back up as a stress management tool, and I know I'm trying to be in the fact I'm using smoking, not having smoking using me. And I think if you can get into that mindset about stuff, you know the dangers, you know the risks, you know the addictive nature, specifically with regards to smoking, but I also know how to stop it. I've also worked out a blueprint of how I can stop it, which I think will be widely very helpful. So I feel like I'm using smoking rather than smoking using me, and I shouldn't really beat myself up too much, because yes, I'm overweight, but I'm still here, which I know for a fact I wouldn't be able to say without any of the vices that I've had through life, whether it was smoking weed, smoking cannabis in my early years, then it was alcohol, partying, and then it was chocolate. But I am conscious that these things have enabled me to cope. But if I'm doing that from the mindset of I'm using this to get to I didn't realise at the time that smoking weed when I was younger was actually a really creative way of stepping into the escapism void, so that I was able to have the space to survive effectively. Because I beat myself up so much, and that's something that I learned in therapy. I was really hard on myself, like it was my fault for getting kicked out of school, it was my fault for smoking weed, it was my fault for causing all these mental health issues. And actually there were really creative ways of dealing with some really heavy shit. But now I know that, so I can look at these things and be like, I'm using smoking. Smoking's not using me. And smoking uses most people that are addicted to it. Because, frankly, it was probably a population control tool to kill people off. I think they've known there's been a overpopulation issue for a long time. I think they've known that there's a lack of natural resources, and I think they're losing control because of it. That's what I think. I'm just joining the dots, but thinking objective, trying to zoom out and think objectively from myself. But because I'm conscious of this, because I have had a medical history of mental health, like I've even gone and spoken to them and said, look, I've sat down with more than one GP, like 2 or 3, and been like, look, this is on my. I feel pigeonholed regularly because of the negative stigma and the connotations to mental health stuff, and I feel like it's holding me back. And I would like this thing to be removed, and I can sit and I can eloquently describe how I wasn't looking after myself. My body was having reactions to not sleeping, to drinking alcohol, to doing coke, smoking weed, to, you know, being around, you know, not in the best relationships, to be like all this kind of stuff. And I'd cut all of that out, and it all stopped. Even when I was the most stressed, second most stressed I've ever been in my whole entire life after my abuse, I still managed to stick to the wellness plan, other than the chocolate. And I can sit there and I can tell them, look, I think I can sit there and say I think that the system's got it wrong, and I can explain why I think the system's got it wrong. But because they're just following, they're not bad people. They're just following directives. They think they're doing the right thing. It's like the extreme far left. They think they're doing the right thing. They think they're doing the moral thing. And it comes from a good place. The far left comes from a good place. It's just I would suggest misguided. It's just gone too far. And I think that's certainly what causes frictions between extreme right, if you can call it that, because of what even is left and right and up and down, blue and green. But from what I can see, the things that from the extreme, so for extremists on sort of Islamic, what do they call them? Is it ISIS? I don't really know enough about its comment, but that the huge disparity in opinions, in values from the very, very extreme over liberal left and what could be denoted as from a left liberal side and the western side as extreme right with misogyny and burqas and things like that. I can see why this side doesn't like this side. From having read the Quran, having tried to integrate a little bit and understand it, inshallah, I would hope that I think I get why they're pissed off. I think that porn is a really good example of, if you compare the porn and the burqa, worlds apart, isn't it? But if you really understood the reason for the burqa, which is to keep women safe, from the primal and not always sinless minds and acts of men, but then it's like, where did the extreme liberal left thing, where did that come from? Where's that agenda? Where's that narrative? Where's those feelings coming from? Is it being pushed? Is it natural? I would suggest that, especially with regards to the kids and the trans stuff, it's not natural. I think that if people want to make those sort of changes, then when they're adult and they've gone through understanding why they want it, and they've gone through therapy and they've done the work, and then you decide that you want to make a huge decision about your body, it's your body, man. I just think we rush that type of stuff. Like, those are changes that you can't go back from. You can't go, as far as I'm aware, you can't go back to being a girl after being a boy or whatever it is. I feel a bit sad because these videos are a source of therapy for me, because I realised that when I started using the tools and integrating them deeply into my life, the therapists weren't. I was then like, oh right, I have to be my own therapist. And does feel like a therapy session, this. I do feel, you get that sense of like tired or drained is probably the right word. Therapy is an interesting discussion. I don't really do videos over now, but I really shouldn't drink this. It's making me feel anxious. Therapy is a really interesting thing. It's so good. So good. So good, therapy. Honestly. If you want the keys to your future, they lie inside you, and the way of getting them out is by choicefully going and engaging in therapy. But it has to be choiceful. I had this chat with Mr. Bailey, the gym owner over in the quite famous boxing gym in Fuerteventura, and I'm sure he won't mind me sharing this. But it's got to be something. I think his was. He didn't have a choice to go at the start, but when you then decide that you want to engage in therapy, flipping heck. You want the keys to your future? Have the fucking door. Have the fucking house, bruh. Yeah, it's such a liberating thing, but you've got to go into it, and you've got to go there. You've got to talk about stuff that you don't really feel comfortable talking about, but you feel that you couldn't feel any more like you don't want to talk about it. You don't want to go there with yourself, because that's the thing with therapy. As long as you've got someone that's reflecting tools back at you that are helpful for dealing with the shit that comes up, it's all about the individual. Yeah, it's amazing. It's amazing. But I'm talking of it from a place of like, when you first go and decide that, because obviously there's the stigma attached, which, you know, frankly, from my mind, the stigma is probably, it's exacerbated accidentally, at the very least, by the term antidepressant. It should be pro-happy or pro-content, or the word anti sets the wrong, creates the stigma. Like something's wrong. Yeah, life happens to everyone. And we're all doing the best with the tools that we've got. It's just if you can go there, you can be honest with yourself, you can be introspective, you can have the hard conversations with someone that you can trust as far as possible, because you know it's not going to leave the room, which isn't necessarily true in all cultures, but it is in the UK as far as I can see. Yeah, when you first go, it's scary. And like an hour, like, you'll feel goosed. And then well, this is speaking from experience, and then I started doing it for an hour, and I'd do like an hour a week or whatever. And I would feel really nervous beforehand, I would feel really anxious beforehand, I would feel quite, what's the word I'm looking for? I didn't feel good beforehand. I know I'm going into the lion's den. And I know that after there's going to be a process. This is where running was really important for me. There's something that I'm going to start doing more of, and I've started doing a little bit. But what will happen is you'll go and you'll talk about heavy stuff. You'll feel absolutely drained. And for the next week, you'll basically be processing everything that you've spoken about. So the feelings that you have about the thing straight after or the day after will be very different the day before the next session, because you're going through it. And what I found with the running, because I don't run with music in, running almost becomes meditative, and it's such a healthy place to process. A lot of run on your own in nature. So, and then I started settling into it and feeling more comfortable about going, and then the shit really hits, and it's like, whoa, this is happening. So for example, when my abuse came up, that was a wild day. That was such a shock. Can you imagine that out of nowhere? 32 years old, it's like, okay, yeah, you've been sexually abused as a kid. It's just like, and I was doing the EMDR technique, which is supposed to help open up and unblock them, and fucking did it. But then obviously the next session after that, I was scared because like I nearly didn't make it through that. I really didn't. I remember staring at myself in the mirror, crying, and just being like, "There's a really cool Jeff Hardy match with the Undertaker, and it's the one that got Jeff Hardy over." And the Undertaker propelled Jeff Hardy, and Jeff Hardy. There's a phrase at the end, and it's like, "You can't break me, Taker. I'm still standing." Anyway, I go through this really intense process, and it was hard. It was challenging. It took it out of me. And the mate, I don't think they say that everyone will have that. So, in a sense, don't be put off by that, because I'm still here, and so will you be after allowing yourself to go there and have the understanding that you're going to come out the other side, and you're going to be in a better position for it, or a stronger position for it. Most people won't have that. Save that little fly. Most people won't have that, where like something so heavy comes up. So I can tell you, then you're going to be fine, because even if something really heavy does come up, you can get through it, and it probably won't. So yeah, and then I got to a point where I was walking to the session the day after, the week after that, or a few days after, actually, because when something like that happens, we had extra sessions, and I remember walking to the office of where it is, knowing that more could come up because I got it in dribs and drabs. Walk into the session and being like, I can picture it perfectly, and I was like, I'm doing it. I'm going there and I'm doing it, and I'm so scared. I was so scared of what was more coming out, more coming up, more coming to me about it. But at that point, my body wasn't ready to release anymore. But I didn't know that at the time, so I was like, let's do this. Let's rip the plaster off. And then I got to a point where I was doing 2-hour sessions, and I wanted to do 2-hour sessions. So what I was trying to say was going from the point at the very beginning of being anxious about going and being really worried, I ended up looking forward to sessions, because I was like, okay, let's get going, baby. Then I was really engaged in it, and that's when the Exeter thing, I was going to do a Masters in Psychology down at Exeter, and that's where the Chiefs thing came in, because obviously I applied for the scholarship, and I told them about all the things that I'd done in my athletic career when I was younger, and everything that I was doing, hot and cold meditations, I said, and yeah, I was given an opportunity and my golden ticket to the pros, to complete the goal, the impossible aim that everyone told me wasn't possible. I was close, so close, and then yeah. In the same week, I did my knee and had the memory come up, but I wouldn't change any of it now. I wouldn't change any of the bad stuff, even the stuff that's happened since, stuff with the police or whatever it was, and I wouldn't change any of it. And I'm really excited to have the opportunity to be a dad, be a father. Be a father, and how I see it is because I've done the work on myself to get to the point where my tools, don't get me wrong, there should always be learning, should never stop learning, should never be lured into the sense of security, that false sense of security that I've got all the answers, because I don't. And I realised that like a year ago. I thought I've got all the answers, and then it's like, okay, here's some more. And then I was like, okay, I didn't have the answers at all, but I had some of them, and because I have some of them, I have better tools. I'm then able to impart them onto. I'll be then able to impart them onto my kid, and then and then you break the intergenerational trauma, and you give your children a fresh start. So if you really, really love and care for your children, go and break the intergenerational trauma. Be honest with yourself, and allow your children, through your strength, through your breaking down, through your hard work, to then them have the opportunity to not be riddled with the shit that you've been riddled with. And you've just been past it, and it's just happened. When we are children and we grow up, we think that because we've grown into bigger people, that the shit that happened to us when we were children doesn't still affect us, and it absolutely does still affect us. You'll be in it. There's shit that happens, even like small stuff, getting scared by bees or getting scared by a dog. When you're a kid, that is heavy stuff. So just as something that happens that's heavy when you're older, it affects you in a similar sort of sense. A good way of describing it is when a child drops an ice cream and they cry. You know, if an adult dropped an ice cream, they wouldn't cry. Well, usually. When a kid does, they cry, because it's relative to their understanding. It's relative to their plight at that time, their understanding of their situation. I dropped my ice cream, so I'm going to cry because this has really hurt me. As an adult, it will be other things that are more heavy that people have to deal with, whether it be grief or loss or whatever. But again, it's relative to the understanding of the situation that the person is in. But if you go to therapy and say you got attacked by bees when you're younger, and you then have a fear of bees, because that'll be affecting life. There'll be anxieties coming from any fear of anything that's happened when you were a child, because it was so intense, will still be affecting your behavioural cycles. Things that you do, the things that you say, the things that you think, the way that you act will be affected by the things that happened to you when you were a kid, or even stuff that's been passed to you when you were a kid from your parents, which was passed to them. And that's the intergenerational trauma, and that can go back years and years and years and years. And I see that from personal experience. But when you go to therapy, you can break the stuff that's been put on you from generations. You can break the stuff of the trauma that happened to you when you were a child, because it was real and it does affect you now, just in different ways. You won't necessarily understand the way that it manifests as an adult life, but the things that happened to you as a kid will 100% be affecting who you are as an adult. And if you can break those things, you can break the intergenerational trauma, you can break your own trauma, you can understand, you can develop the tools, you can develop the understanding of self, the benefit will then become there'll be so much opportunity of benefit for your children to not have to deal with other bullshit that other people didn't break. And then you give your children the opportunity of lifetimes, because that intergenerational trauma that you broke has been holding back people in your family, in your lineage, for who knows how long. Who knows how long? But if you can break that, you're giving your children the opportunity that you never had. And if you love your children and you sacrifice for your children, which I would, there's nothing more important to me than the wellness of my child, the betterment of my child. There's nothing I would sacrifice. I've said this, I would, and when I say this, I put it out into the universe, I'd sacrifice anything for him. Then God will be like, okay, let's see. And it's that time you got to stand up and be counted. It doesn't necessarily have to go that far though, but it can just be, you can just focus on, look, you have intergenerational trauma like everybody does, you have your own shit like everybody does, and you can break it. And then because you've broken it, you're in a more, mature is probably the wrong word, but a more nuanced understanding of like, let's just give these children a chance, man. And then it's like, well, but therapy costs money, I don't have enough money. And it's like, okay, where can you find money? Can you find it from not drinking alcohol? Can you find it from not going on nights out? Can you find it from, and don't get me wrong, not, and then it's like, okay, well, people don't have the money to do that. It's like, how do we get the situation where people can have the money or the access to these things that are going to benefit Everyone forever. Imagine if every single person on planet Earth was offered the opportunity to have to build the tools from people that have their tools, to build the tools for other people, and everybody did it, and everybody broke generational trauma, and everyone was working towards a common goal, which is harmony and the betterment of everyone. Oh me, that's the kind of world I want to live in. And not only that, because it's probably past me now, but that's the kind of world that I want my kid to live in, and his kids to live in. But I obviously don't have the emotional attachment to them yet, because obviously mine's a baby. But like, and that's such a lovely gift. That's such a lovely thing to give to someone that you love. And but it has to be choiceful. All these things have to be choiceful. Firstly, because if you don't engage with therapy choicefully, then it's not going to work. It just doesn't. You can't. You won't go there. You won't. The process. You can't. It doesn't work. You have to go there choicefully. But it's the same thing as philanthropy. It's the same thing as community building. It's like the same thing why communism doesn't work. It has to be choiceful from. Then it goes. I go back to the point. I can't afford it. I can't afford, because I was paying like £70 an hour. People can't. Not everyone can afford that. So it's like, all right. Well, firstly, do we then make it more accessible? Probably yes, but then that's going to take time. So then it's like, okay, so how? All right. Well, let's make more money, more people that don't have money. Let's get them into a situation where they can have more money. But not then to then go and be baller and waste money, because being a baller is wasting money, and that's probably why they want you to do it, because they don't want the lower classes to be able to challenge the status quo. I think that's why it's set up the way that it is. I think there's a possibility that it's been engineered. Money goes to money. I think there's a possibility that it's been engineered that way. Okay, so how do we break that cycle for the betterment of people, for the betterment of my kids' future, every kid's future? How do we do that? Entrepreneurship. It's not that hard. It's very easy now to set up a business with AI, with the internet. First, don't waste money on frivolous material bullshit that you think is going to make you look cool or make you happy, because it won't. In the short term, you might get dopamine hits, but it's not true happiness. That comes from fulfillment and meaning. Try and not be a baller and waste money. It's not cool. Being a baller is not cool. I thought it was. I used to try and be that guy. I was buying bottles of Grey Goose and all that kind of shit. Not all the time, admittedly, but I have fallen into that trap, and that's how I managed to figure this shit out. So don't try and step back and look objectively at the world that we live in and be like, okay, well, I don't want to waste money. It should be cool. How much money have you invested? How many businesses you got? That should be what's cool. So we need to make entrepreneurship more accessible, and that comes from the self-belief that it's possible, and it is possible. You've got AI, you've got the internet. Even like I've often thought of, like, instead of giving a homeless person money, give them a little mini cleaning kit so they can go and try and build their way out of a situation. It's like the analogy that I use for antidepressants is you're walking down the beach with your shoes on, and your shoelaces come untied. An antidepressant would be to tie your shoes up and carry on walking. By the way, I came up with this, or God gave me this one, but you tie your shoes up. An antidepressant is you tie your shoes up and you keep on walking. That's what an antidepressant, as I see it, is. But a life of wellness and faith and looking after yourself, that is taking your shoes and socks off and going for a stroll down the beach. And it's the same thing. We can plaster over the homeless problem by giving them money or giving them food, which would help in the immediate short term, but empowering them, giving them the opportunity. But if you expand this idea more widely, giving people the tools to create their own betterment for themselves and their families, So you have to stop the waste, and you have to increase the self-belief and the education about business. Setting up business is not that complicated. It's really not. And you can do anything to make money. It's never been easier to have a side hustle. Even if you do a trading time for money job, you can still do with AI. You can make content with AI and just start posting about a certain thing, and then you build an audience. And once you build an audience, you can sell into the audience. There's something that I read in Richard Branson's book. He had a student magazine that was doing really well, and then he decided to sell records, but he sold the records to his target audience, who were the direct target audience. The students who were buying the records, he put an advert in. So he was using his own platform that he built, and this kind of is in the social media world is applicable. You build an audience and you sell into the audience. But if you're selling shit, like what's that herbal bollocks and the pyramid schemes, that is a misguided way of doing it. That's just for the person that's created a platform to make money, and they don't give a shit. But if you can sell products then into that are either widely liked by the community or widely helpful or useful. I want to do my own range of holistic ashwagandhas and stuff like that, and sell that at a lower price so it's more accessible, because everybody should be taking something to help lift themselves up. The antidepressant thing, the anti thing, is what creates stigma. Pro content, they're pro happiness, pro anti drama. I don't know, the anti thing sets the wrong tone. But going off on a bit tangent, but what I'm trying to say is entrepreneurship and business and self-reliance is really important, and it's having the belief that you can do it. It's finding the time to do it, especially when you've got like mortgage, wife, kids, pet, drama, family, whatever it is, that all the stuff that everyone really has takes it out of you as well. The thing with consistency is, even if you just do 10 minutes a day, at the end of the year, you're ahead of something like 95% of the world's population of that thing. And you don't want to do more than 10 minutes, because you'll burn out and you'll stop doing it. Every single person on human planet Earth can commit to 10 minutes a day of something. Now, if that's linked to entrepreneurship or betterment or one of the 5 rings that I've coined, that's going to lead you to a fulfillment, which is what we should be chasing: fulfillment and harmony. So we need to raise the bottom rung. We need to make entrepreneurship and the self-belief and business more attainable and accessible for normal people. People need to be investing in the stock market, in ETFs, in funds, because the fund goes up every year. You need to be every single person should be benefiting from compound interest. Yeah, if you're annoyed that money goes to money, join the club. Even if you put in £500 a year, at the end of that year, that 500, if it goes up on average 8% a year. That 500 kid will be worth 504. Let me use a better, more understandable example. 1,000. If you put £1,000 a year in, at the end of that year, it'd be worth 1,080 if it's gone up by 8%. And you put another 1,000 in the next year, then you've got 1,080 going up. And my math isn't that good, but it'll be 8% of 1,080. You benefit from that 80 going up, and that's where the compounding happens. The compounding happens from the 80 going up. So let me explain that again. The £1,000 that you put into a fund every single year for 100 years or whatever since the Depression, basically the market has gone up by an average of 8%. So you put £1,000 in, at the end of the year, that £1,000 is worth 1,080. It's that 80 then that is a bit that builds and builds and builds, because you'll then put in another 1,000. It has to be 1,000 every year. You have to keep it ticking. Right? At the end of that year, at the end of the first year, after putting 1,000 in, it'll be worth 1,080 because of the increase, right? I think I've got my maths right there. Yeah. And then it'll be 1,080, and then you put another 1,000 in, so you've got 2,080. But at the end of that year, you've got an 8% increase on 2,080. Probably should have used 10%. I would have been able to do the maths better. And then that 80 will then go up by 8% as well. And then at the end of the year, say it's another 80, it won't be very slightly more than 82. That 82 will then go up. And then every year it goes up. And that's what money goes to money. All right, we'll get in the club, man. And everyone has access to it now. Everyone has access to it now because of internet platforms like eToro and the other ones that are free to use. They're free to learn on those things as well. They've got a virtual account. Everyone can play the stock market. It isn't rocket science. Business is not rocket science. Business is actually very simple. They use jargon and try and complicate it, but it's very, very simple. It's just like learning a mini language. Look, I don't know everything. There's loads of tax, there's loads of loopholes, there's loads of shit that I don't know about it, but understanding the basics of it, really not rocket science. It would really benefit. So if you can spend 10 minutes a day doing something, or you can find the time to do, there's low barrier to entry businesses that are easy to get into as well. Like cleaning, for example. Anyone can set up their own cleaning business. All you've got to do is go and buy a sponge, mobile car valeting. All you've got to do is literally go and buy a bucket and sponge and some soap, and then go and find the clients and spend that 10 minutes a day finding a way to find the clients. Whether that be door knocking to 10 doors on your road. Do you need your car washing? I'm going to come to your house and I'm going to do it right now, and you can pay me 20 quid or whatever, 10 quid to do the outside, 40 quid to do the inside, and yeah, and then you just do it. 10 minutes, 10 minutes, 10 minutes. And find, if you are bogged down by your routine and life stresses, find a time every day where you do the 10 minutes. Find a time, whether that be, probably not when you just wake up, because it's good to give your mind a break that first hour of waking up, because you're processing stuff from the night and the day before. Maybe it's one of the last things that you do before bed. Maybe you put the kids to bed, and you've got a little bit of spare time before you sit down and watch Netflix, or as you're sitting down and watch Netflix, because we don't always have full concentration on what we're watching. When you sit down to watch Netflix, it is a really good way of doing it, right? When you sit down to watch Netflix at the end of the night, before you go to bed, you're chilling out, you've had a long day, you're a bit pissed off with life, you've had an argument with your missus, your kid's being a pain in the arse, the dog's got a problem with its tongue, or your dog's got diarrhea, you've got to get a car payment, you're all stressed out. Look, take some time to chill out before bed. You're going to put Netflix on. And when you put Netflix on, unless you're completely engrossed in a series, you're just putting it on just to sit there and just chill. Find your 10 minutes there. That's your 10 minutes. That's where you find it. And you can find it. Anyone can find 10 minutes. And I know I sound like bloody Molly May, because not everyone has had the opportunity to learn the things that I've learned in the way that I've learned them. But the same token, like, don't forget, some wild shit's happened to me as well. Yeah, I do so. I'm conscious that I do sound a little bit like Molly May, but because I'm conscious of it, the grass is always greener, is what I would say. Yeah, entrepreneurship is not that difficult to get into. You operate as a sole trader, which means that you're doing it on your own. There's an allowance of income as well before you have to declare it. You can sell on eBay, you can sell on Amazon, you can make AI content videos, you can post about dog training, you can make cakes. Making cakes a really low barrier to entry one that's also high margin. High margin means that you can make decent profit on it. Making your own cakes is a good one. Making your own biscuits and then selling them into cafes, friends, family. It's cleaning. What other really low barrier to entry that anyone can do? Dog walking. Removals, if you've got a van, house removals, or There's loads and loads and loads of stuff that anyone can do. There's loads of shit you can do to make money. I realised that really young, but there's loads of different ways to make money. Window cleaning was one for me. I heard about a lad that was buying up window cleaners. There's so many different ways of making money. And there's so much access to information online now. And you can learn everything from bloody YouTube. So what are the things that I've done, just for personal examples? I had a clothing brand after university, where I contacted suppliers in the Far East. I designed caps, I got them sent over and I sold them. Sold them to my friends and I sold them to small boutique type streetwear shops. Sold football shirts online. I would buy them off eBay during. This is the one that I did better on. I would buy them from eBay, not in the World Cup, and I'd wait for the World Cup and then I'd post them on Depop, sell them on there. People sell them shit to people when people want it. Supply and demand. You could buy, even if you've got low barrier to entry, is a thing, because if people got no money, where am I going to find the money to do this business? Okay, buy an England shirt from eBay for £10 and then sell it in the World Cup for 30. Okay, you got 20 quid, alright, buy 3 next time. Grass cutting, gardening. That's another one. You've got a mower, you've got a car. People have water access at their house. People have grass and can't be bothered to cut it. If you live in an area where there's someone that's got, not an elderly person, but even an elderly person, I'd probably do that for free. It's just to be nice. But even like people that everyone's got the neighbour he's got the right idea there. Everyone's got the neighbours that don't cut the grass. Go and knock on. Just be like, hi, I'm setting up a gardening business. I was wondering if you needed a grass cut, and that's a really easy one. And if you go in there and you be really polite about it, they're not going to tell you to fuck off, because they actually want the problem solving. They just haven't got around to doing it. You can go over to someone and present them a solution to a problem that they've got for 20 quid, 30 quid, whatever it is. Why would they say no if you approach it in a respectful and polite way? And even they do say no, good. Then you're learning resilience. You've got to kiss frogs in sales. That's one thing that puts people off. People saying no, the fear of rejection. But you can start by saying, if that's an issue for you, you don't want to have to do that, then sell cakes to friends and family. Walk your friend's dog. Offer to help. If you can see someone has a problem, offer them a solution. And then with things like ChatGPT, you could even say to ChatGPT, hi ChatGPT, can you make me a logo or a flyer for a, let's go with grass cutting business. Can you make me a flyer from a grass cutting business that says local person, selling a grass cutting business, give me a flyer. It'll design the whole flyer for you without you having to do it. Then take it, you get it printed, you can spend, 30 quid on getting some flyers printed. You wouldn't even need to do that stuff, you just go knocking on doors. And then you can go handing out flyers. And then you can build rapport with people, and then you get a repeat business. And that's how you build business. Repeat, repeat, repeat. This is something that often cowboys, you see the cowboys in the trade, they don't see this, they don't think. It would be very, very easy to stand out. If you're a tradesman, you have such a huge opportunity to earn such a huge amount of money. Turn up when you say you're going to turn up, or early. If you're on time, you're late. Turn up when you say you're going to turn up. Don't take the piss, and then you'll get repeat. It's very easy to take the easy road and take the short-termist road of stealing or doing someone over or taking the extra, But they're never gonna come back. That's not how you make business. Business is built on repeat. As far as permissible with regards to the model of the business. Yeah, you make good cakes, people are going to want to buy another cake. You cut grass, you make the extra effort, you cut it well, you take pride in what you're doing. People are going to go, oh, all right, that was a decent price. This is a nice bloke, girl. They came when they said they were, and they really took care. They really did a good job. I'm going to tell my friend about him because my friend's got an even bigger lawn. And I know that they struggle because they're getting to an age where they don't want to do it themselves, for example. And then when you start proving the concept, you start getting one client, you get another client, you get another client. Then you're like, oh, okay, well, maybe now I can use some of that money to get the flyers, to get a t-shirt. Then I feel really proud of myself. I've got my own t-shirt, my own gardening company, which was all designed by AI and done through internet provider that can do really cheap t-shirts with logos on for like a tenner, 15 quid. Okay, now you look professional. So you're doing a good job, you look professional, you're known for not ripping people off. This is how the ball starts rolling of entrepreneurship. Yes, it is. And then you start making enough money. Oh shit, I shouldn't drink that. That's a sign from the universe, don't drink it. Alright, and now I've made a certain amount. Oh, now I'm being like, oh shit. So I'm now in a position where, especially, if you've got kids that are in nursery, and you don't, so there's no point in you working because your kids are in nursery, and then you won't get the credits or whatever, the government paying. So sometimes there's no point in people working because of nursery costs alone. But if you can get to a point where you're making, even if you're making enough to still not qualify and still get the help, you can have a side hustle and still be benefiting from the extra support that you gain from the government, which you're entitled to and should get. And you're not taking the piss, especially. All right, now you're starting to move and shake a bit. Okay, now you might even get yourself to a point where it's like, oh shit, I've now got to the point where I can leave. You can think to yourself, I'm doing this on the weekends. I'm doing one evening and one weekend, and I'm starting to get more clients. And you go, I've got 10 people now asking me to cut the lawns in summer. It's like, oh shit, I'm earning however 400 quid, whatever it is, from my job. I'm currently earning 200 from the grass cutting. If I can think of a way to get more clients and continue doing this, maybe I can stop this shitty job that I hate. I don't have to get up. So I can be my own boss. I can have flexibility. And then the anxiety will come, and it's like, well, what about the security? What if the season changes and there's no grass cutting? And these are things that stop people from being entrepreneurship. All right, we'll try and figure out a way where you do grass cutting in the summer and you make cakes in winter. You used to do crepes or whatever. Do crepes in the winter or cakes and do gardening in the summer. And then now you've got two businesses. And don't forget, there are still going to be people that need garden cleaning and garden clear-ups out of season. So okay, now you're in a position where you've got the flexibility to live the life that you want. You can take your kids to school, that specifically in the culture we live in. You can do the school run in the morning and be a present father and be a good father and help your kid benefit. And then, oh shit, I found that 70 quid. Even not all therapists 70 quid. Oh shit, I found 30 quid. I've got that 30 quid now. Oh, I could go to therapy and really give my kids an opportunity. And then the kids start getting older, and because they've got better tools, because you've got better tools, they can get into the business with you. Now you've got a father and son business, which I'm not being funny, it's pretty cool. And also cheap labour. And you can start building, there's so many people that just do jobs that they don't, and there's so many people that have degrees that do jobs that they don't like. And I just think if people have the confidence and the understanding and the tools, then everyone has the possibility to give their kids a better life, give themselves a better life. But we're just sucked into the rat race where, and my in-laws are very like this, over in Spain, because I was like, father-in-law came over to help with some painting, and I was like, sort of subtly saying, oh, you've got everything you need for a painting business here, because obviously you buy, this is another low barrier to entry thing that people can get into. You go buy a pot of paint, you go, they even pay for the pot of paint, the clients. All you need is a roller and a dust sheet, and a brush for cutting in. Even if you get good ones, you can get all that for 50 quid. And then you can go and do painting for people. But take care in what you're doing. Don't rush it. Don't try and get in and out because you want to go and do whatever the shit that you're doing. Take pride in what you do. Take care of what you do. And then word spreads. But I don't know, man. I don't know who I'm talking to here. If anyone's watching this, I'm talking to you. This is because this has come to you at the time where you're supposed to hear this. And it might sound hippie and whatever woo-woo, but if you're watching this, it's because the University of Life, the universe, has presented this video to you at this point. This has come to you at the time where you're supposed to listen and watch this and heed some of this if you so desire. But you're watching this because you're supposed to be watching this. The universe isn't science is very, very good at explaining lots of stuff, but it's not got all the answers. And if we can just be a bit more fluid with it, if something comes to you, it's because it's supposed to come to you. There is no coincidences. Coincidence is one of the biggest lies. Coincidence and limitation, those two things are two of the biggest lies you've been ever told. So, if something comes to you, a coincidence, think, oh, why has that happened? And this will be an instance of that. If you're watching this video, it's because you're supposed to watch this video. Flipping heck. So maybe you've been thinking about making some changes, and maybe you weren't sure. Maybe you want to create a better life for yourself and the kids. Maybe you're just so sick of the situation that you're in, like I was, with my being overweight and unhealthy and not fulfilling my potential. Maybe it's just you're at rock bottom and you want to get out of it. Or maybe it's you're having more hope and more positivity. You think, oh, do you know what? But if you're watching this video, it's because you're supposed to be watching it. And you have everything that you need to be able to build whatever reality that you want. And it's just believing that is possible, and it is possible. And again, I know I sound like bloody Molly May, and I don't mean to shit on Molly May. I shouldn't say her name. Shouldn't say her name. And sorry, Molly May, I'm being a little bit judgmental. I was just the backlash that she had for saying everybody's got 25 hours in a day, even using that voice. I'm sorry, Molly May. Because it's more easy for some people to do things like that, which it is. But then again, don't forget the grass is always greener. But if you're watching this, it's because you're supposed to watch it, and there may be some changes that you can start to slowly implement that are going to lead to what you want, and whatever you want is whatever you want. But I'm suggesting that a better life for you and your kids, and their kids, and everybody's kids, might be something that's pretty badass. Yeah. So, oh, yeah. This is the longest video I've done. My dogs are going to be wondering, where the hell has Daddy gone? And yes, I do refer to myself as Daddy, because also I have a child, so it makes it. But they are my children. They are annoying as children, I'll tell you that. They wind each other up no end. It's like having two lads. They wind each other up so much, and I'm starting to miss them now anyway. So I feel like I've imparted. I feel pleased with the messages that I've imparted. If any of it has resonated with you, take what resonates and discard what doesn't. But if it resonates with you, take it. I've heard that for a reason. Take it, resonate it, think about it, and just, I don't know, mull it over, gang. I want a word for my my legion of subscribers. Gang. I saw a cool guy calls them fam. Quite like that. I might use that. Right, fam. You have the ability to create whatever you want, and by not believing that you have it, you don't have it. But everybody has the ability to create the life situation that they want, and anybody can do it. You just gotta see that you can make. For something to change, something's got to change. So I feel good. I feel pleased. No, not I feel good, I feel pleased. I feel pleased that I'm able to have learned all this stuff through so many mistakes, through so many opportunities, through so many mistakes, through so many opportunities, so many mistakes. And let's try and focus on the whole rather than the individual. And when I say that, I mean, it's like when you're in traffic, right, and you see someone pulls out and it's like they didn't want to wait. Me and my partner are always saying, oh God, they didn't want to wait, did they? Because they think, because the thing is, we're lured into a sense of security where whatever I'm doing is more important. Me waiting in this queue right now, where I'm going to pull out and cause a bit of an issue for the people, I'm more important. So my pulling out is because I need to get to where I get to more than that person needs to get to where they're going to get to. But it might not be that might not be the case, because what if someone's waiting for a hospital appointment and they're late, or what if, you know, that thing of like the individual is the most important. Yeah, man, if that's what you want to do, that's what you want to do. But I'm suggesting that there might be an alternative which might lead you and others to betterment. And there are the tools there. We're not necessarily given them. I would suggest that it might be the opposite. But never give up, man. Never settle for less. Never. I sound really cliche when I say shit like this. But what? And if you're in a hole and you don't know what to do about it, the storm passes. Something that I've been telling myself recently, when shit's been hitting the fan, it'll pass. And in the same way that the good feelings will pass, the bad feelings will pass as well. And the bad feelings are actually probably going to lead you to a better, stronger future. So don't give up hope. You know, there's a phrase off Ted Lasso, it's the hope that kills you. It's not, man. Hope that keeps you going. We live on 33 Hope Street. My name's Adam Dow, Santiago, Flor de Adam. Mucho gusto y gracias por viendo mi video. Si te gusta, vamos a hacer I don't know, my Spanish isn't that good. Yeah, man, take it easy, do your best, try and be nice to people, try and be nice to yourself, try and fulfill your potential, never get stuck, never settle, never give up, find a way. Slowly catch your monkey. Thank you for anyone that's listening. Thank you for anyone that's watched. Thank you for God for giving me the opportunity to feel better for myself, I feel better for doing this video. I'm pleased that I now feel a sense of relief that some of my ideas that I feel like can better people are out there. And even if one person sees it, even if half a person sees it and they switch off, I appreciate you watching, I appreciate you engaging. It makes me feel better about being able to impart some of this myriad of shit that I've managed to learn over these almost 35 years. And yeah, we can build a better future. We just have to rethink some of the norms. But facts in their nature change. All facts change. The tectonic plates used to be all attached. The continents used to be attached. You know, facts aren't 100%. They change and they amalgamate and they evolve over time. Let's not get stuck in this fact, stat. Let's go with feel, let's go with intuition, let's go with roll with the punches, ride with the waves, and let's try and build a better future for everyone, man. Because if we don't, what are we doing? If we're not trying to better ourselves, if we're not trying to help our kids, then what's the point? What are we doing? Why are we here? We're here just to exist, to do a job that we hate, that we then go and splash money getting bladdered at the weekend because trying to escape this bullshit monotonous drudge that we find ourselves in. And a lot of people find themselves in that drudge, and mine might not be the stereotypical drudge, but don't get me wrong, I drudge. I'm androgynous. I don't know what that means. You should probably look that up. And like one other thing, the last thing that I want to impart here is that when you're feeling like down in the dumps, or you're feeling shit, or you just had enough, pretending like you're fine and not asking for help, like the macho machista thing of pretend everything's fine, stiff upper lip. There is an element of that where we need to stick to the Rudyard Kipling poem "If," and that's how you be a man. There is part of that, but there also is like the sense of pretending that you're fine when you know that you're not. Even guys and girls, pretending you're fine when you know that you're not isn't strong. So fake strength, that's not a strength, that's weakness. Going asking for help or admitting to yourself that changes need to be made, that's strength, man. Admitting stuff to yourself, that's where like progress is made. And you know, I'm not perfect, no one's perfect, and we should celebrate our differences, and we should be proud of who we are without pride, because pride is a sin. But we should all be proud of who we are. We should all be allowed to have the freedom of expression from within. And I'm suggesting, amongst other things, that not everything that we think comes from within. And if we had systems of authority, systems of media, systems of hierarchies that we could trust, then unbiased, all right, let me rephrase that, unbiased. If the messaging that we were getting through the media was completely unbiased and genuine, then we all have the opportunity to be the people that we want and live the life that we want to create. And if we really go in there and do honest introspection, you open the doors to actually be fulfilled and happy. Happiness is probably something that I would regard might be better for women and children, and I don't see that in a misogynistic way, and please don't take it that way. But men, we're protectors, and you know, those natural roles are there for a reason. That's what we were built to do. And by pretending, specifically speaking to dudes, by pretending that you're fine and just going around in the macho man Randy Savage, being macho man about stuff, and not so, because some admittedly some men don't have access to emotions in the way that I do, or the way that empaths do. Some and I suppose for women it's like talking to a door sometimes, but men haven't evolved to be emotional beings, because we are there to protect. Our natural roles that we were designed to do by evolution is to provide and protect. And the traditional woman, the female, is to care and nurture, and that is fucking cool. And to be honest, it's way cooler than the women's role is way cooler. Women don't want to do it. It's not celebrated. It's like, what? So cool. That bond between mother and child is just the most incredible thing. And men will never, ever, ever get that. They're just these big, dumb lumps that keep you safe. And that should be celebrated as well. But that shouldn't be celebrated through pretending that you're alright when you're not, or not being honest with yourself or others. It should come from like going there and being a courageous man, and offering women the opportunity to do what they're designed for, and the only thing that's important. And give our children the opportunity to be happy and express themselves and learn who they are, and not be held back by any of our bullshit. So at 1 minute 53, whoa, that's a video, that, isn't it? Bloody hell, you could have watched Lord of the Rings, not Lord of the Rings, you could have watched The Shawshank Redemption in the same amount of time that you spent listening to me drab, but call it a podcast, I guess. Oh God, I hope that you could hear that with all the outside noise. Oh, an hour 54 minutes. If you can't hear it, that would be so annoying. But again, it's helped me Flipping heck. Thanks for listening, anybody. Thanks for listening, universe. I was looking at the sky when I did that. Stay golden, pony boy. YouTube. Wait, hang on. YouTube.